Shri Shri Ras Vihari Ju Ki Jai Ho, सब वैष्णवों को जय श्री कृष्ण. श्री बल्लभाधीश की जय हो जी. आज के आनंद की जय हो. हाँ जी. This is Vraj Kishori Seva Trust. Reading Bade Shiksha Patra. Today is day 56, letter 21, 10 verses. There are 10 verses in this letter. The subject matter is Protecting Your Love for the Lord. Translator's introduction. This 21st letter delves into some close self-introspection, whereby devotees of this path examine the nature of their divine service and their innermost attitude to it. It also addresses the subject of skillfulness in balancing gainful employment and divine service performed with the appropriate divine sentiments. The index has been sent along with this recording. The 21st letter discusses how leaving worldly employment for serving the Lord can only be effected with a steadfast intelligence. Steadfast intelligence comes from remembering one's total surrender to the Lord's will in the company of pure devotees. Listening to opposing principles engenders suffering and the indifference of the Lord. The present age of struggle destroys man's natural intelligence. To keep the company of dedicated devotees on the path of grace. In the previous letter we read how Vaishnava behavior secures the fruit of the path. This age of Kali conceals the devotional path and good association, so how can the devotional reward be achieved? Verse 1. The path of devotion and the company of pure devotees are both now hidden. Thus, devotional sentiment has become cold, without which everything seems to be purposeless. Tika 1. Due to this present age of struggle, the path of devotion has become hidden, as has the association of pure grace-filled devotees. Therefore, the divine sentiments of the path of grace have become frozen. Without said sentiment, everything seems purposeless, because this path of grace consists purely of such loving moods, and all the apparent rituals and actions of this path are shaped by love alone. This can become known through the company of pure devotees of this path of grace. Otherwise, how can it be known? In this path of devotion, the constant consideration is the comfort and happiness of the Lord, not those with whom one's relationship is only on a physical level. With this heartfelt understanding, you should serve the Lord. But these conditions are rarely fulfilled, and then only with difficulty, and such divine sentiments are now cold and inactive. When one goes through the motions of service without any loving sentiments, then it is all in vain. Verse 2. Without heartfelt devotional sentiment, acts of the devotional path become mere actions. The mind fails to find still focus, and confusion dominates interactions. Tika. One on the path of the devotional path should remain in the mood of divine connection all the time, but this condition is hard to achieve. Mostly we are performing rituals without feeling, doing them when the motivation is there, after which nothing remains in our heart. Whilst we are serving the Lord, we neither experience the joy of union, nor we do experience the pain of separation in the periods between our services. All our actions are done like duties, without mental focus or concentrated involvement. The mind is filled with perplexity and confusion about how to behave, and does not reach a still in one pointed state. Thus, true service to the Lord becomes impossible. Verse 3. This state of unskilled interaction in relationships brings excess distress. In this condition, how can the Lord's service be made in the family home? Tika 3. Worldly interactions affect our service to the Lord, and so when they are dysfunctional, one suffers distress. One loses one's patience, and then the family situation seems unfavourable. How then to carry on with one's service to the Lord? The path of grace is based on divine loving sentiment, and is thus a very high path. The embodied soul is diminutive, and this age is extremely difficult. Remembering conflicts while performing one's service to the Lord is a feature of this age of Kali. One's interactions seem empty and useless, so how can one be forbearing? One suffers utmost grief in one's mind. How can divine love be generated in a heart full of worldly anxiety? One feels obliged to fulfill worldly, scriptural and family responsibilities, and so then how can one serve the Lord? The mind has been grasped by worries. Here one might interject, so why bother your relationships? The Lord is all-powerful and will perfect all your worldly and scriptural considerations along with everything else, so don't be bothered by these and just serve the Lord. The next verse will tell us about this. Verse 4. The platform of having renounced gainful employment and therewith worldly and scriptural considerations is extremely hard to attain because it requires a steadfast intelligence. This latter condition arises only from careful and constant reflection on one's surrender. Tika 4. How to give up gainful employment. It may be an elevated state to not have to work and just make service to the Lord, but this kind of excellent intelligence is just not present. In this age of struggle, total faith in the Lord is very hard to achieve. If you do not have total faith, you will gather only difficulties and stress by not working, and if you fail, you will then blame the Lord, saying, "Oh, I have surrendered to the Lord and serve him, but he has not perfected my worldly situation." In this way, you will become a pauper and lose your status as his servant. So what is the real way of being without gainful employment, especially when you don't have such a fierce intelligence or full faith? Here you might say, well, okay, behave in such a way that you gain intelligence and full faith. But the teaching here is that such intelligence and faith will occur when you constantly remember your surrender to the Lord, repeat the 8-syllable prayer in the mood of refuge, and offer up your whole being to the 84-syllable Brahma Sambandh prayer of dedication. Question your surrender. Have I surrendered to the purport of this prayer? How do I behave now? How long have I been in this state of forgetfulness? Have I now been connected to the Lord through Sri Acharya-ji? What is the Lord like? What is the nature of the embodied soul? How can an embodied soul become the true servant of the Lord? With the 5-syllable prayer, one connects one's path to the Lord alone. Pondering in this way alone sharpens and uplifts your intelligence and allows you to have full faith. Now I will describe how to ponder upon this self-dedication. Verse 5. It has already been described how the association of a pure devotee is essential in the remembrance of one's surrender to the Lord, but that such devotees are hard to find or live far away. This is why our intelligence is not enlightened. Tika 5. We are not intelligent enough to properly ponder our surrender to the Lord. In his Navaratna, the 9 Jewels treatise, Sri Acharya-ji has written, one should remember one's dedication to the Lord in the company of accomplished devotees. Therefore, yes, we should ponder upon our self-dedication to the Lord with experienced and love-filled devotees of the path of grace. Then only our love for the Lord will become firm. Here you might interject. I understand this necessity, but such individuals are very hard to find, and even if you do, they often live far away. How can I gain their association? Without them, how can I reach that stage of enlightened intelligence? Verse 6. My intelligence is firmly situated in the Lord, but it weakens because of the lack of association with these devotees who would provide nourishment for it, and my consciousness becomes sad and tainted through hearing many other kinds of talk. Verse 6. It is intensely difficult to expect my heartfelt mood of divine love to increase, and whatever love was there from before is decreasing due to lack of nourishing circumstance, which would require the association of an accomplished devotee. Thereby, nourishment of the love occurs. So, taking a rest from the reading today, we will continue tomorrow. In letter 21, verse 7. आज के आनंद की जय, सब वैष्णवों को जय, श्री कृष्ण रास बिहारिणी जी की जय, श्री श्री वल्लभाचार्य जी की जय हो। जय जय श्री राधे, आज के आनंद की जय हो।